This is dangerous stuff. And you need to be telling your friends and neighbors that, you know, what I just shared with you, that this is dangerous stuff, that if they know a woman who's pregnant, listen to your doctor, not to a heroin addict lawyer who's running the CDC now, or this real estate developer who's sitting in the White House. Listen to your doctor. It's just that simple. In Sweden, they have a national health care system. So everybody's in, and the system has the records of every person in the country. And so they're able to look at, and by the way, this has been the case for decades. And so they're able to look at epidemiological information and, you know, draw reasonable conclusions. Kennedy is saying that acetaminophen, Tylenol, when taken during pregnancy can cause autism. And he's pointing to a couple of studies that suggest that, you know, some women who took Tylenol during their pregnancies had children who were autistic. But the studies are small, they're flawed, and they don't account for variations in the age of the people. I mean, is, for example, an older woman who is perhaps more likely to produce an autistic child? We don't know, but I mean, you know, we know with Down syndrome, there's kind of an association. I think that might actually be the man, but whatever. You know, there's an age factor. Is it that, well, there could be all kinds of variables, and they're not controlled for. So what Sweden did was they looked at either 2.3 or 3.2 million children over a 20, 30, 40-year period, over a long period, a period of multiple decades. And they looked at vaccines and the use of Tylenol during pregnancy and autism. And what they found was that they could identify no relationship at all once they had factored for things like age and illness and genetics and stuff like that. They could find no association whatsoever between children getting vaccinated, and their vaccine schedules are very similar to ours, and producing autism, or moms taking Tylenol producing autism. It's the largest study in the world. It's comprehensive, it's complete, it's well published, it's peer reviewed. It's been analyzed by countries and scientists all over the world. Any scientist, anybody who knows anything about vaccines can tell you all about this. This is not some, secret thing. And yet, yesterday we had Donald Trump and Bob Kennedy standing up there going, well, you shouldn't take, we got a study here that says that if you take Tylenol while you're pregnant, you're going to have an autistic child. No, this study is a bad study. And, it's just, there's no other way to say it. Look at the Swedish study. You can Google it. Like I said, it's not a secret. And what is this going to do? It's number one, it's going to cause a lot of pregnant women to say, oh, I shouldn't take Tylenol. Well, I think I'll take Advil. Ibuprofen, or I'll take aspirin. Acetylsalicylic acid. And what happens when you take those things? Well, you bleed more easily, which is a real risk factor for women who are pregnant. And so what you're going to see is you're going to see more women bleeding out. You're going to see more women, miscarrying. You're going to see real problems. Or you're going to have women who are in extreme pain and they're not taking anything. And, if a pregnant mother is in pain, her body is producing cortisol. It's a response, it's a stress. Pain is stress. And the body produces cortisol in response to stress. And we know, Joseph Chilton Pearce wrote a book about this called Magical Child that was published a couple of decades ago. He's the guy who wrote The Crack in the Cosmic Egg, if those of you old enough to remember that New York Times bestseller from the 1960s. And I wrote the foreword to Joseph Chilton's book, Crack in the Cosmic Egg, which, you can still find on Amazon and any bookstore. And when he wrote Magical Child, it was all about how the studies that showed that mothers who were exposed to stress during pregnancy, and the main stressor that they were looking at was war, but mothers who were experiencing stress during pregnancy produced children who were more physical and less intellectual. And it just makes a certain amount of sense. It's like the baby is constantly interrogating the mom via the blood supply, via the placenta. Am I going to be birthed into a safe world or an unsafe world? And if it's a safe world, then what happens is the forebrain develops better. The part of the brain that is involved in our thinking and our inhibition and our ability to make decisions and analyze situations and things like that. The front half of the brain, essentially. On the other hand, if the message that the baby gets from mom is the world is going to be a dangerous place that you're going to be born into, then the baby, the fetus, the brain development is focused less on the forebrain and more on the hindbrain, on essentially the brainstem, on the fight and flight part of the brain. And so what they found with these studies was that mothers who lived through war, whose babies, whose entire pregnancy was experiencing stress, were producing babies that were more physical, more prone to violence, more prone to, quick temper, and less intellectual, whereas the mothers who were, had safe pregnancies where they did not experience stress produced babies that were more thoughtful, produced human beings who were more thoughtful, more intellectual, more cerebral, and less inclined to be violent or physical. Now, obviously, there's a whole bunch of variables in there, including genetics and, is this an ectomorph or mesomorph or endomorph or what, all that kind of stuff. But the bottom line is that science is pretty settled. That's why everybody talks about cortisol. So what happens to a woman who's in pain during her pregnancy? Her body is producing cortisol in response to the pain. It's the same thing as if there's a war going on around there. It's gonna alter the child's outcome. So this could be extremely destructive. This is why you don't hire a heroin addict, sex addict lawyer to be in charge of your nation's public health. And you don't have a real estate developer going on TV giving medical advice to pregnant women. But that's what we've got right now. And I'm really concerned that this is going to do some serious damage. I mean, we're already seeing it, right? We've got, because, half of it was the Tylenol, the other half of it was the vaccines producing autism, which is, again, the Swedish study debunked that too. And yet, here we are. Right? And I mean, those stories have been around for so long and they have seemed so credible. I mean, when our, I don't want to get into the personal stories, but I'm just, this is dangerous stuff. And you need to be telling your friends and neighbors that, what I just shared with you, that this is dangerous stuff, that if they know a woman who's pregnant, listen to your doctor, not to a heroin addict lawyer who's running the CDC now, or this real estate developer who's sitting in the White House. Listen to your doctor. It's just that simple.